Hello, everyone. Let me try to finish chapter 4. All right. So last time, um, we've talked about the change in market equilibrium. Okay. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but you just remember the three steps. Okay. The first one, which curve moves, right? Which curve moves? And next step, which direction? Shift right or shift left? Okay. Next one, what happens to the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity? Okay. So you just follow those three steps. I think you will be fine. Let me try. Okay. So here, let me continue. So far, we've let the market find its own price. Buyers and sellers fight it out. Equilibrium wins, right? Today, we ask what happens when government steps in and says, no, the price has to be this. All right. So we have two tools, opposite direction. The first one is the price ceiling. All right, so it's a legal maximum price. Government says you cannot charge more than this. This think think about rent control. Okay, set a cap below the natural equilibrium. All right, let me write it down. So this is a maximum price. Okay, price ceiling. Just think about the ceiling above your head. The other way around, we have a price floor. This is the legal minimum price. Both of them are legal. Why? Because it's set by the government, right? Government says you cannot charge less than this. Think the minimum wage, all right, sets a cap above the natural equilibrium. Same idea in both cases. The government is forcing the price away from where supply and demand would naturally land it. And remember what we just spent three slides on, right? When price moves away from equilibrium, you get either a shortage or a surplus. That's exactly where we are headed next. Which one each of these creates and why? Okay, so let's see the definition. A price ceiling is a legal maximum, and here's the key detail that matters. It only actually does anything if it's set below equilibrium. If the government caps the price above where the market would already land, nobody notices, right? The market was already there. Okay, so price ceilings prevent a price from rising above a certain level. And it's a maximum price set by the government below the equilibrium price. All right. I'm going to show you later why it's below the equilibrium price. Next one, when the government imposes this policy, okay, why would a government do this? When a price is politically or socially seen as too high, hurting people's ability to afford essentials, like we have our textbook examples. The surgery mask at the start of the COVID, right? The gasoline, rice, the basic utilities. So think about the mask example. Remember the early COVID-19 period? Masks that used to cost a few baht suddenly cost 10 times that. Government's instinct, okay, keep the price so everyone can afford one. Sounds fair, right? Sounds protective. But here's the question I want you thinking about before next slide. We just spent a whole lecture proving that when price is pushed below the equilibrium, something specific happens. What was that? If the price is below the equilibrium price, what happened? What will we have? We're going to have shortage, right? Shortage. So a policy designed to protect consumers might end up hurting them a different way. That's exactly what we unpack next. Okay, here is the graph. Remember, we have the supply curve, demand curve, and the equilibrium, right? We have the equilibrium price, which is P star, equilibrium quantity, which is Q star. So what is the price ceiling? It's below the equilibrium price, right? Okay, so I want you to think about a real story. Have you heard about the 9 baht bus? In Thailand, especially in Bangkok, okay, the government controls the price of public buses. Some routes cost only 9 to 10 baht. Why? Because millions of workers need to commute. If bus prices followed the free market, all right, if the bus prices followed the free market, the price might be 40 to 50 baht. Okay, by free market. Poor workers couldn't afford to go to work every day. So the government says bus price cannot go above 10 baht. They put a ceiling like a roof that the price cannot break through. It's great for passengers, right? But what happens to the bus companies? They complain they lost money. Some routes get cut. Sometimes buses are overcrowded because demand is high but supply is limited. That's a trade-off of a price ceiling. Okay, think about the trade-off here. Let's draw the graph. So let's see, we have a price ceiling like the 9 baht bus. Suppose it's here. So this is the price ceiling. Okay. So what happens? Look at here. If price selling like the 9 baht is below the equilibrium price, what is this? Okay, this is from the supply curve. So this is the quantity supplied. And the other way around, from the demand curve, this is quantity demanded, right? So what is the gap here? What is the gap here? We have shortage, right? Shortage. Okay, so building below the equilibrium creates shortage. And let me put a star here. create shortage. Ceiling is above our head, like the roof. But in economics, selling price is below equilibrium. Okay, protect buyers, right? Now, the mirror image, a price floor is a legal minimum and same rule as before, just flipped. If it only actually matters if it's set above equilibrium. Set it below, and again, nobody notices the market was already higher. Next one, why would government do this? When and why? So this is the opposite motivation from the ceiling. Now the price is seen as too low, hurting the people selling, not buying. Okay, so I have example here. The price is too low. Think about the agricultural products, corn, pineapple, wage in labor market, right? So basically for the agricultural products, farmers not getting enough for their crop. And minimum wages, right? Minimum wage protecting workers' income. So notice the asymmetry. Price selling protects buyers, which is consumer, from prices too high. Price floor protects sellers from prices too low. And here, the same question as before, flip the direction. We prove that pushing price above equilibrium creates something specific, right? Think about it. What was it? If the price is above the equilibrium price, we're going to have surplus, right? Okay, let me add one page. So a price floor meant to help farmers or workers creates a surplus. See here we have the original market equilibrium. Right now, okay, the price floor is above the equilibrium price. Let's say the price, maybe the government sets the price here. This is the price floor. What happens here? So here is the quantity supplied. No, sorry. Here is the quantity demanded, right? Because it's from the demand curve. The other way around, this one. This is the quantity supplied. Because higher price, okay, which is above the market equilibrium, higher price, higher profit. That's why, as a seller, we want to produce more. But as a buyer, we just won't buy this. All right. So there's a gap again. What is this? Supply is greater than demand, which is surplus. Okay, so basically, the floor above the market equilibrium will create surplus. Okay? Floor is under our feet, but in economics, floor price is above equilibrium, okay, protecting sellers and workers. Just a little summarize of those two. So price ceiling. This is the maximum price will create shortage, right? The other way around, price floor. This is the minimum price will create surplus. Okay, next one. So we just established that a price floor above the equilibrium creates surplus, but government still wants farmers earning that higher price. And there are two ways to make it work. The first one, which is direct subsidy. What does it mean? So the government doesn't touch the market price at all. Think about the Thai rice. Free market price might be 8,000 baht per ton, but government promises farmers 15,000. So it just pays the 7,000 baht gap straight to the farmer. Okay. So in this graph, we have let's see, the free market price might be 8,000 baht for Thai rice. Okay, so think about the subsidy for Thai rice. But the government promises farmers the price should be 15,000, right? Basically, the price is here. Okay, I use F, which means price floor. So let's say we have 15. The government just pays the 7,000 baht gap straight to the farmer, right? Because we have a gap here. Okay, my question is that who pays that gap actually? Paid by taxes, right? But that means the taxpayers actually pay the gap. Okay, look at the graph. Let me shade those areas. Okay, here the gap between the price floor set by the government and the market price, the government pays gap to farmer. So look at the graph, nothing moved, okay? So they're still trading at the equilibrium at point E. So the market price is the P star and Q star. Consumers pay the normal market price, which is P star. Farmer quietly get topped up behind the scenes. No surplus ever shows up because demand was never scared off by a higher, stickier price. Okay, so for direct subsidy, nothing moved. Nothing moved, right? No surplus. Before, you see, we have a surplus. If the government sets the price floor here, we have a surplus. But by direct subsidy, nothing moved, and there's no surplus. Next one. The government purchases all surplus to reduce excess supply. So basically, government buys the surplus. Okay, this is the second option, and it's more dramatic. Government says, fine, if the floor price creates unsold rice, we'll buy it ourselves. That's actually happened in Thailand for decades. Government became the country's biggest rice buyer, warehousing millions of tons. Okay, what happens to all that rice? Maybe they're gonna export to other country, and maybe they're gonna donate as food aid, or often it just sits and rotten. By buying up the surplus, the graph looks clean again. Okay, let me finish the graph. So we have the equilibrium, right? So government sets the price floor. Let's see here. What happens here? So we have, because right now the price is too high, so there's less demand, but higher supply, right? So we're gonna have surplus. Okay, and this time the government buys the surplus. All right, so let's see, let me share it. Okay, this is the surplus, and right now the government buys all this rice. Okay, the government buys the surplus. By buying up the surplus, the graph looks clean again. All right, trending at point E, no visible imbalance, but the cost didn't disappear. It just moved off the chart and onto the government's book. Thailand's rice pledging scheme in 2013 and 2014 lost over 500 billion baht, one of the biggest policy disasters in Thai economy history. Okay, let me write it down. You can search, okay, you can search this one from Google if you are interested in Thailand rice pledging scheme in 2013 to 2014. Right? So this policy is kind of disaster, made Thailand lost over 500 billion baht. So let me summarize the difference between the direct subsidy and government buys surplus. Okay, subsidy hides the floor price from buyers. Market looks untouched. Surplus never appears, but government purchased makes the floor price real, which is a genuine surplus forms. Okay, we have a genuine surplus, and the government has to physically absorb it. Same goal, very different bill. Let me draw a summary table for you. Okay, so we have the first choice, which is subsidy. Second type, government buys. Okay, let's see what happens to market price. How about the surplus problem? Who pays the cost? And then the example from Thailand. Okay, for the subsidy, the market price stays at P star. And there's no surplus, right? Who pays the cost? Taxpayers, right? The gap between the price floor and the price star. The example is that rice price support top up payments in Thailand. Next one, government buys. So the market price set at PF, right? Which is above the equilibrium. And we do have the surplus, right? And government buys it all. Another one, next one, who pays the cost? Taxpayers. And example here, rice pledging scheme, KA. I need to rearrange. I need to rearrange my slides. Just wait a moment. Let me move this one. Okay, let me move this one, and then this page should be here. All right. Okay, so I summarized the difference for subsidy and government buys for you. Next one, market and competition. We are shifting gears now, right? We're done with equilibrium and price controls, moving into market structures. Quick receipt on what market really means. Everyday sense, right? A physical place like Walolo Market, Langmo Market, a wet market, a place with stores and vendors. But in economics, a market doesn't need walls or a location at all. It just whenever buyers and sellers connect and trade. Could be Shopee, could be Grab, could be the labor market you enter after graduation, systems, right? Platforms, relationships, anything that lets exchange happen counts, right? So a market is an area gathering of people in which commercial dealings of provisions, livestock, and other commodities are conducted. As long as there is an exchange happens. Why does this matter today? Because not all markets work the same way. A wet market with the hundreds of vendors selling the same vegetables behaves completely differently from, let's say, the one company that supplies your electricity, right? That difference, how many sellers, how much power each one has, is exactly what market structure is about. And that's where we are headed next. We are now going global. A market doesn't stop at Thailand's border, right? Buyers and sellers connect across countries. Thailand sells rice to China, buys iPhones from the US, sells rubber to Germany, all connected. Okay, look at the three pictures. Gold, one global price, trades 24 hours a day everywhere. Oil, a barrel costs roughly the same where you are in Bangkok, London, and Peking. COVID vaccines, right? During the pandemic, rich countries bought up the supply first, leaving poor countries waiting. That's a global market in action. Prices and access decided far beyond any one country's borders. Okay, so the slide says global markets are shaped by trade policy. Let me give you the most dramatic live example. Think about in April 2025 last year, Trump announced tariffs, which is a tax on imports, on nearly every country, calling it Liberation Day. So Thailand got hit with 36%, meaning every Thai product sold to the US suddenly cost 36% more for American buyers. If Thai goods just got 36% pricier in America, what happens to Thai exports? To factories making goods for the US? What happens? What will happen? Obviously, if the price is higher, right? Exports drops. Okay, Thai exports drops, orders cancelled, jobs lost, but weaken. Okay, Thai baht is weakened. That's the point in real life. Okay, one decision in Washington reaches a factory worker in Lampung, a shrimp farmer in Samarkand, and it cuts both ways, okay? Whether the US taxes Chinese goods, okay, think about it. When the US taxes Chinese goods, some Chinese factories relocated production to Thailand and Vietnam instead. So some Thai factories actually gained orders from the same policy. Nobody trades in isolation anymore. Okay. One policy decision can shift supply chains worth billions of baht. Right? So in a global market, a price in one country becomes an economic problem or opportunity in every other country. So we've talked about markets globally and locally. Now the real question, how many players are actually competing in the market and how much power does each one have? That's what market structure is, okay? It's really just one question. How much competition is there among the firms selling in a market, right? So here I have a market structure refers to the organization and characteristics of a market, particularly the nature and degree of competition among firms, right? So it determines the behavior of firms, pricing strategies, and overall market dynamics. Think about it as a spectrum, okay? On one end, there are hundreds of vendors at Walolo selling identical vegetables. Nobody has any power. You can walk away and buy from the next store, right? On the other hand, one company owns the entire electricity grid. You have zero alternative. And here's why it matters practically. The amount of competition determines how a firm behaves. Lots of competitors, a firm can't overcharge customers to leave. Almost no competitors, a firm can set the price whether it wants because you have nowhere else to go. So from here, we are going to walk through the spectrum, okay, from the most competitive market structure all the way to the least and see how price power changes at each stop. Here's the map of this spectrum, four stops, okay, from most competitive to least. The first one, perfect competition. What does it mean? So this is the one end of the spectrum. Think about tons of sellers, identical product. Nobody has any pricing power, like the fresh vegetables at Walolo Market. Next one we have monopoly, which is the opposite end, okay? Monopoly means there's only one seller. No competition at all. So this seller has a full pricing power like the electricity company. Okay. In between two more realistic categories, most real world markets actually fall into. Oligopoly. What is oligopoly? A handful of big players dominate. Think Thai mobile networks. Okay, we have AIS, DTAC, True, few enough that each one's decisions affect the other. So this is oligopoly. Next one, monopolistic competition. There are many sellers, but each one's product is slightly different, slightly branded. Think coffee shops in Chiang Mai, okay? Coffee shops in Chiang Mai. dozens of them, right? But you might prefer one over another because of taste, vibe, or location, right? So their product is slightly different. Okay, I summarized here for you. And this table is quite dense. Don't read it. I'll walk you across it once, okay, from left to right, following one thread. Who controls the price? Let's see the first one. Perfect competition. All right, we have many small firms. Homogeneous products. Homogeneous just means the same, identical product, okay? Free entry and exit in the market, perfect information for all participants. Okay, again, identical products, zero economic profit in the long run. Firms are price takers, all right, they are price takers. Example is the agricultural market, okay, the wheat, the corn. Next one, monopoly. Single firm controls the entire market. Okay, there's one firm for a monopoly, no substitutes, higher barrier to entry. Okay, there's higher barrier stopping anyone else from entering. Think your local electricity company, all right? Local electricity company. The firm is a price maker, full control because you have zero alternative. You must buy from that company. You see, firm is the sole provider on the good or service, potential for significant economics of scale, and the firm is price maker, all right? Monopolies can lead to higher prices and reduced output, so there's no competition again. The local utility companies, right? The electricity, the water, they are monopoly. Next one, oligopoly. Few large firms, right, dominate the market. Product products can be homogeneous or differentiated, same or different. Significant barriers to entry, interdependence among firms, right? So there's a possibility that the those firms may collusion. Okay, they may collusion. Firms may collude to set prices or output, right? Like the example that I told you, right? There's a few large firms like the automobile makers or airlines, not one price maker, but they are independent, right? They are independent. Each firm watches what its rivals do before deciding, and because there's so few of them, they could even collude to keep prices high. Okay, this is something about game theory. Okay, game theory. If you are interested in, you can search. Right? They make collusion. The last one, monopolistic competition. Okay, many firms, but differentiated products. All right, differentiated means different. Relatively free entry and exit. Some degree of market power. Okay, just some price and power. The product is differentiated, okay, leads to brand loyalty. Firms compete on price, quantity, and marketing. Prices are higher and output is lower than in perfect competition, like the restaurants and clothing brands, all right? Many firms, okay, but Each one differentiates itself. That's why we have differentiated products. So you are not comparing identical products anymore. You are choosing based on brand, taste, and quality. Sorry, yes, quality. Brand, taste, and quality. That gives each firm a little pricing power, not because they control the market, but because their product feels unique to you. All right. As you move from perfect competition to monopoly, firms gain more control over price, and consumers lose more choice. This next one, this is just a visual recap of what I just mentioned. Good chance to check it stuck without the text crunch. Okay, so we have perfect competition, right? Perfect competition. The market store sense, right? Many small firms, a market with no dominant players, lots of small vendors, nobody towering over anyone. Monopoly, there's one tower, okay, one crown, standing completely alone in the desert with no neighbors. That isolation is the point. No competitors nearby, okay? A monopoly, there's only one firm. Next one, oligopoly, okay? Oligopoly, notice it's drawing as two big towers shaking hands. That handshake is deliberate. A small number of giants who know each other negotiate with each other, sometimes even coordinate with each other. Okay, that's why, that's what collusion I told you before. Okay, sometimes they cooperate, coordinate with each other. Next one, monopolistic competition. A busy street full of different shops, all distinct, okay, all competing from the same foot traffic, but each with their own identity. And here, the real theme trying this entire chapter together, okay, the invisible hand, which is the price mechanism. Nobody assigns prices from above. In a free market, prices adjust on their own. Supply and demand pulling against each other, and that pulling is what balances the whole system, whether it's a Walolo vegetable store or a global oil market. All right, supply and demand. Okay, so this is the last slide of chapter 4. Quick close out. Why does any of this matter beyond the exam? Why market structure is important, even not for your exam. So there are three angles, okay, three audiences. As an analyst, market structure tells you how prices actually get set. You can't predict price and behavior without knowing if you are looking at a monopoly or perfect competition. Okay, how prices are set. As a policymaker, it tells you whether regulation is needed. You don't regulate a vegetable market the same way you regulate an electricity monopoly because the risks to consumers are completely different. All right. And next one, I think it's more related to you guys. As a business person, which is probably most of you, it tells you what kind of fight you are walking into. Okay, if you want to open a coffee shop in monopolistic competition, means competing on brand and 2025. Trying to build the next mobile network means facing an oligopoly with giants already shaking hands. All right? So, this isn't just theory, it's literally the first question you would ask before entering any market. The question is, how many players are already here and how much power do they have? Okay, let me write it down. I think it's very interesting. Before entering any markets, you always ask, okay, you always ask how many players are already there and how much power do they have. All right, that's the end of chapter 4. You know now how a market actually finds its price, equilibrium, shortage, surplus, price ceilings, and floors, and the 4 market structures. This is the toolkit we'll use to read any market for the rest of this course. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. As I told you before, right? I announced at Mango. So next week, there's a holiday next week. So I'm gonna see you uh 3rd of August, right? 3rd of August. Of course, as usual, I'm gonna have the in-class quiz for chapter 4. All right, so be well prepared. 3rd of August, we'll see each other again. And I finished the midterm part. Let me help you. I finished the midterm exam content. Okay, the 4 chapters, 1, 2, 3, 4. Please review all those 4 chapters. Okay, you should be responsible for yourself. Okay, I don't want to talk much. So thanks for watching and see you next month. Bye bye.